voice onto the field. Everything is riding on this football game. So there's a special intensity, a special urgency. Here come the Volunteers. Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley, and today we're going to kind of bounce around a bit. We're going to talk about Josh Heupel. We're going to talk about family, and we're going to talk about the frustration of this fan base. But spoiler alert, I think Josh Heupel gets it. He's making his rounds. He's doing a lot of press, a lot of media, a lot of podcast interviews and such. So we're going to take a couple of clips. We're going to take an article. We're going to bounce around. But before we get into it, guys, make sure you do go ahead and smash that like button just below the video. If you will so kindly just press that thumbs up, I would appreciate it. It helps out the channel, helps the analytics. It sends this video out into the YouTube world so more people see it and join us. So I would appreciate that. Also, if you're new here, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. You won't miss out on when we go live or when we drop new content. And speaking of live shows, it's been a couple of weeks. We are planning to go live Friday, May the 28th at 7 p.m. We're going to be watching the 98 National Championship game live on air. The band will be back together, so I hope you will join us for that. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Like I said, I'm going to share up this article. We're going to talk about it, and then we're going to show a couple of clips, a couple of comments from Josh Heupel. I want to get into it. This is from 24/7 Sports. Josh Heupel addresses frustration of Tennessee fan base. Now, there's a lot of people that are upset with the way that Danny White has been talking about our fan base, but I'm going to get into how Josh Heupel spins it, and I like what he has to say here. The article here says new Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel inherited a program with a lot of issues and frustration among the fan base, but he's more familiar with that situation than most think. The article says Heupel explained how his playing days gave him experience dealing with this exact situation. Heupel went on Outkick 360, and speaking of, that's where we're going to be taking the clips. Outkick 360, great show on YouTube. They interviewed him. You can search it. You can find it. Good interview. I encourage you to go check it out after the video. It says the VAWLS head coach quickly noted that Oklahoma wasn't in a great place either when he arrived there as quarterback. What gives Heupel hope is the passion that Tennessee fan base still has. Don't confuse negativity with passion. When you're passionate about something, it is hard to explain to somebody that's not. And sometimes that passion can be confused with negativity. I like that he describes this fan base as passionate. The quote here says, I think my perspective as a football player shapes my perspective on who we are and where we're at today. I say that because I went to Oklahoma, and that was a program at the time that hadn't been to a bowl game for 5 straight years. There was some uncertainty and negativity that surrounded the program. I say that as a positive. I love this guy, man. I love this guy, and I know he has not coached a single game, but it's the middle of May. We can't talk about football games yet. We're going to talk about what he is doing off the field. But I love how he takes a negative and turns it into a positive. He says, just like here at Tennessee, they have passion. They care. They want to live it, breathe it, eat it. 365 days out of the year. Again, it's the middle of May. We're making videos, and you guys are drinking it in. You guys show up and you show out every single time we drop a video or we go live, and it's the middle of May. Why? Why are you guys here? Well, the same reason I'm here, because we are passionate. We live it. We breathe it. We eat it 365 days a year, and Josh Heupel gets that. He says, that's why I wanted to be at Tennessee. This is a special program. It's one of the greatest traditions in college football. Top 10 in wins, top 10 in NFL draft picks. Anything you want to do here can and has been done and will be done again. I love everything Josh Heupel has to say. I know we've got a long way to go from where we're at today. Our staff and our players are going to fight and compete to get there every single day. I'm getting fired up, guys. Getting fired up on this early Thursday morning. And I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. Some people are going to roll in here and they're going to say, talk is cheap, Boogie. Talk is cheap. That's why it's on the thumbnail. Talk is cheap. Talk doesn't mean anything. You're right. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. I want to take a look at a couple of clips from Josh Heupel on this Outkick 360 interview, because he addresses the fact that talk is cheap. Let's take a look at what he has to say.
Right. As a coach, my first meeting with our players, I said, there's going to be a lot of words spoken tonight. You probably heard these words at some point during the course of your career, but you'll soon learn that my actions are going to be carried out that way. And I think that's what our players inside of our program have experienced here. We got great momentum, energy inside of our program. Connections completely different. That was the second thing that came out of our players' mouth when I had a team meeting with our players is, accountability first, but the connection piece had to be real. That's who I am. That's who our staff is, the guys that I've hired. You've seen us live that out, probably through social media at times here, just the experiences that we've had together. And as we move forward, there comes a point in time where, all right, you got to decide if this is something that you want to be a part of or not. And it's always about the guys that are inside of your program. On the flip side of that coin, as we've gotten through spring ball and entered this period of time in late May or late April and early May, we've been able to add some guys to our roster that have the ability to help us immediately. We think when we get to next fall, and some guys will have an opportunity to develop inside of our program as well.
Talk is cheap. I love at the beginning of that clip, he goes back to the first team meeting and how you've probably heard these words before. A lot of people chalk it up to coach speak. A lot of the things that coach has to say, Coach Heupel has to say, it's coach speak. It doesn't mean anything. I love that he addresses it right out of the gate. Talks about how the connection has to be real. Don't talk about it, be about it. Josh Heupel wants to love on these kids. He wants to pour every ounce of energy into them and their experience as a football player and as a student at the University of Tennessee. I think a lot of these kids were lost. Jeremy Pruitt gets fired. I think they were lost. I think they had trust issues going into this new era under Josh Heupel. But when you're around somebody long enough, you stop hearing the talk and you start seeing the actions. Coach Heupel talked about that a little bit more in this next clip. Let's take a listen.
Connection piece, right, is real. And that's just who you are and how you interact inside of your building every day. What are your interactions like when you're in the meeting room? Who are you when you walk past a player, right? When I first got here, it was for us, our staff, but for me, I had to go see them. I had to go seek them out, right? And that's being in the locker room, being down in the players' lounge, being around them in their areas, and them getting a chance to see who I am. Not one time, but multiple times, right? And every experience that I had with them changed the shape and the course of how they felt coming into this building. And that's the reality of who we are. Our players are up on the second floor, which is our coaches' offices and meeting rooms, man. They're coming up here all the time now. Why? Because they like being around us. They like being together. And that energy that you see from our program, from our players, that's real. That's who we are every single day. And you got to do some fun things that are outside the box, but that's really about connection, man. You think about a family, and that's the most overused word in recruiting and in college sports, I think. And I say that meaning that people use it, but they don't live it out every single day, man. And we're going to live those things out in who we are.
I love it, man. I love it. Coach Heupel is addressing everything that people are saying, like in the comment section of these videos. He talks about family. That's overused. It doesn't mean anything. He knows that. He's telling you that. He's telling you that the word family is the most overused word in college recruiting, but yet he still is establishing a family. Talking about these kids, he says they like being around us. They like being together. Like I said just a few minutes ago, don't talk about it, be about it. I've shown numerous clips of players and their reactions, their excitement, the smiles on their faces. It seems like a completely different group of guys. And as Heupel's explaining that to you, and he's telling you that they're hesitant to be around them, he has to go search them out. He has to find them. You guys know when my camera's on, you can see it over my shoulder. Rocky IV, one of the greatest movies of all time. If I can change and you can change, anybody can change. The more he was around these players, the more they got to know him. Again, you see through that cheap talk. Talk is cheap. Actions are for real. The more these players are around Josh Heupel, the more they get to know him, the more they love him, the more that family becomes not a word, but authentic. It becomes real. Like I said, all these players, you see their reactions. You see the smiles on their faces, whether it's ice cream trucks or home run derby, dodgeball, whatever it is. It can be goofy, it can be silly, but it's authentic. This week, Trayvon Flowers was on the slice. Again, another kid just grinning ear to ear. Looks like he is a different person. This is what he had to say about his position coach, Willie Martinez.
You have Coach Martinez. So how would you describe him?
Oh, he's a character for sure. He's funny, man. He comes in. When he comes in, we just all gonna laugh. Like, he gonna do something funny every day, call somebody out. It's funny, but he's a great guy. He knows what he's talking about. He keeps it 100 with you as far as being on the field and off the field. He's gonna teach you how to be a player, and he's gonna teach you how to be a man. So he's a good guy.
On and off the field. A lot of the word that gets thrown around from these kids when they're talking about this new coaching staff is transparency, honesty, keeping it real, keeping it 100 on and off the field. I know as fans, it's all about wins and losses. The reality is it's about more than that. These coaches have a responsibility to these players and also the players' parents. Now, we can sit here. It's the middle of May. We can talk about family and culture and atmosphere because, again, it's the middle of May. We're going to find out just how tight this family is, just how real, just how authentic this family is once they're thrown into the fire, when it counts, when it's for real, when the game's on the line. But I think Coach Heupel is laying a solid foundation so that when Saturday rolls around and push comes to shove and the bullets are flying, these kids are going to be ready to go to bat for each other, for their coaches. I think they're going to have each other's backs. I encourage you to go check out that interview. Again, it was on Outkick 360. Really good interview. He did talk a little ball too, talked about how their offense is going to look different than his previous stops because they have different personnel. I like what he has to say about that. That's something else we've heard in the past. You know, I'm going to get the ball to my playmakers in space. Are you? Or are you just going to say that? I'm going to utilize Ty Chandler and Eric Gray on the field at the same time, or else I've had a heart attack. Well, maybe Big Jim Chaney did have a heart attack because he failed to do that. But Josh Heupel has a track record of using his personnel the correct way. So I think he is going to show us something a little different this fall. We know we're going to get fast-paced, high tempo. We know that. But it's going to be, I like everything he has to say about his offense and how he changes it based on his personnel. He also talked about considering it a privilege to be the caretaker of Tennessee football. He said that multiple times, but I think he is excited to be here. I don't know that that was the case for the previous coach. I think if Josh Heupel has success, I think this is his destination. Whereas the previous coach, I think it was a stop, just a little stop on his way to something else. I think Josh Heupel wants to be here. I think Josh Heupel is for real. We're going to find out this fall just what that means when it comes to wins and losses and playing football. That's going to wrap it up for this video. Leave me a comment. What do you think? Coach speak, or is it real? Is it authentic? I think it's the real deal. But leave me a comment, guys. Let me know what you think. If you have not done so yet, make sure you do smash that thumbs up on the way out the door. This is the Talkin' VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.
The songs howl like me, poets sat in our chains, soaking moonlit falls, unbroken past this inundated orb that we call home, and it's night and I'm alone and I'm alive. The dogs howl like me, poets sat in our chains, soaking moonlight.